when someone says your wife, or they're speaking on your wife.
Your wife.
Everything after that wife word better be positive. The conversation that's to be positive when you're speaking on a man's wife. You have to thread real lightly.
To say that somebody else deserves to be open and to be respected for who they are and to be fully rewarded for their efforts and work, black women, you're gonna go seesaw and actually go at a black man just because he's married to a white woman. Which is interesting because Ryan Clark, last time I checked, your first love, your baby mama, your first child was from a white woman. So now it's like, what are y'all trying to prove? Who's blacker?
Well, now tuned in to the Dark Times channel.
So here we go again, back with another one. Welcome back to the Dark Times channel. And I want to go ahead and dive right in. I want to go ahead and get right down to the nitty gritty because people are conflating issues when it comes to the topic of Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark and as it pertains to RG3 and Ryan Clark.
Number one, this got way too personal. Way too. You start bringing up people's wives. I don't care if she black, white, Hindu, Christian. You start bringing up people's wives. We've gotten way too casual bringing up people's wives. And for somebody, for people who know and who are about that life, women and children off guard. Did I miss something when that changed? Because people are bringing wives and children up way too casually, and dudes are getting way too cute on social media.
People are conflating some issues here. And y'all remember a few days back, RG3 made some remarks about the whole Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese situation, saying that it was personal with Angel Reese and that Angel Reese did not like Caitlin Clark. And not on the basketball level, but on a personal level.
Yo, welcome to Out of Pocket with RG3, hosted by your boy. You guys remember last year when Angel Reese celebrated Kennedy Carter getting that flagrant foul on the hip check against Caitlin Clark? You remember that? On the sideline, just, yeah, baby, get her, you get her. Who celebrates like that?
And Ryan Clark took issue with that.
We moved in to being able to read the expressions of a person and know their intent, know their character, know their perspective. But he does understand hate because I think he also understands the hate of self.
As a commentator and as a sports podcaster, he's allowed to have his opinion. And his opinion had nothing to do with RG3's wife. Not directly, at least, like people are trying to make it out to be. People are trying to make it seem that Ryan Clark crossed some kind of proverbial line that doesn't need to be crossed by mentioning RG3's wife.
When Ryan Clark retorted on the pivot and said, basically, I'm gonna undermine that take because what do you know about the plight of the black woman when you go home to a white woman? God dang, like even hearing that, it's like, what the? But saying that, and here's the most egregious part about that. Here's the violation. In Ryan Clark's effort to protect black women, he decides to come at a black man and restrict him in terms of his freedom of expression.
And Marcellus Wiley is an interesting one, I'll say that. And I've done videos defending Marcellus on certain topics and issues, but this last year or so, I don't know if it's for clicks or it's for views or he's trying to gain a larger audience. But for whatever reason, Marcellus Wiley has been serving as an intellectual, proverbial black butler for far-right conservatives and cozying up to the Jason Whitlocks and Megyn Kellys of the world.
Controversy with her remarks about dressing up in blackface.
What is racist? Because truly, you do get in trouble if you are a white person who puts on blackface for Halloween or a black person who puts on whiteface for Halloween. Like, back when I was a kid, that was okay as long as you were dressing up as like a character. And she made her skin look darker than it really is. And people said that was racist. And I don't know, I thought, like, who doesn't love Diana Ross? She wants to look like Diana Ross for one day. I don't know how like that got racist on Halloween. It's not like she's walking around.
I have not seen it. But
You have watched it. TV host Padma Lakshmi tweeting, because caricaturing another race perpetuates the dehumanization of people of color. This isn't the first time Kelly has come under fire for comments about race.
Santa Claus should not be a white man anymore. Yet another person claiming it's racist to have a white Santa, you know? And by the way, for all you kids watching at home, Santa just is white. Jesus was a white man too.
Every time you try to take up for some group, it's fair game to talk about people. It's fair game to talk about someone's game. But for that to be undermined by, oh, who you married to? Oh, I don't want to hear it. Hey, look, man. All this pandering for these groups to be protected, you just gonna miss the mark all the time. You're gonna miss the goal of them being respected.
And so for Marcellus to talk about somebody pandering to groups is a little bit like the pot calling the kettle black. And Marcellus is somebody who takes pride in being from Compton, in his upbringing in Compton, and then turning around and going and being accepted into Columbia. And he's somebody that every chance he gets, he'll let you know about it. That's his experience, and that's his right to do so, and he's really proud of it. But Marcellus is somebody that tries to get away with playing both sides because of his so-called black experience growing up in Compton. And by the way, doesn't qualify you for living in black experience just because you grew up in so-called poverty or just because you grew up in Compton. That doesn't give you the right or any kind of qualifications to be the spokesperson for the black experience. But then on the flip side of that, because he was accepted into a quote-unquote prestigious Columbia University, he feels like he's qualified to interpret how white people really feel or what they really mean when it comes to race relations.
But what do you make of the whole controversy now as history gets rewritten every day?
Pure ignorance, beyond ignorant. So Different Strokes was my favorite show growing up. What people don't know is that I grew up, my grandmother's house in Compton, and we had two patients that we were taking care of. One was a war veteran, and one was an elderly lady who had some mental health issues. Both of them were white. So I'm all over the place in terms of this dynamic because I never ever bought into white people have something that I don't have. Matter of fact, when you really pushed me, I said, I know at least two white people that need me for their daily necessities.
And that's the exact game Marcellus Wiley has been playing. And it's profitable. I'm not mad at it. Get your money. If you can sleep at night and you can get that money and you can feed your family from them folks, do what you got to do. But with that being said, he should have set this one out. Just like RG3, because he's somebody who's smart enough to know what Ryan Clark was getting at. You can have an opinion on race relations and be black and be married to a non-black woman. You can do that. Anybody can do that, except when it comes to RG3. Anybody else but him. If you're a so-called black man, if you call yourself a black man and you have to issue a public apology for using racial epithets towards other black players on air, you're disqualified.
Couldn't get it done. He couldn't operate from the pocket. He's not the quarterback of the future. I think he proved all those jigaboos wrong.
Even Steve Young was disgusted by that. He was like, what the hell? And everybody was kind of shocked. And he had to come out and issue a public apology. And then on top of that, Ryan Clark brought up how when he worked with RG3, all he could do was bring up how much he loved milk.
When I worked with RG3, he would make all of these sort of corny jokes about milk and how much he loved it and how important it was. And he always points out on social media the color of his wife's skin, as if the color of her skin is what makes her special, as if the color of her skin is what makes her a good wife. I've met the lady, I've had a conversation with her. Right. I think she's more than that.
And then we fast forward and we see RG3 posting pictures of his wife with captions about how much he loves milk. And so this whole public obsession with his wife's skin color, that is a reflection of his internalized validation through whiteness. That's some fetishized contrast between whiteness and his own identity. And that makes it seem like what he's really after is white approval on a subconscious level, or maybe even on a conscious level. And so a lot of us are with Ryan Clark on this one. It wasn't about a black man with a white wife commenting on Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. It was about RG3 himself commenting on the situation. Sometimes you got to read the room. Sometimes you got to know, hey, I don't have the best history when it comes to my own community. I see a lot of little weird things, and I have this racial idolatry for my white wife that I keep posting online, and I can't keep talking about how much I love milk. And I'm calling people jigaboos. And maybe I should sit this one out. And so that's what it was really about. And so I have an issue with a lot of people pretending like they don't know what Ryan Clark was talking about, especially Marcellus Wiley, because I know he's smart enough and I know he's intellectually qualified to understand what it was Ryan Clark was talking about. But yet he has a job to do. He has to placate to his audience. He's got to keep those commercials coming. He's got to keep those endorsements coming. And so I understand it. But on this one, like I said, he should have said it out. Sometimes you got to sit it out. And that's all this was about. Sometimes you have to sit it out because you're not qualified to speak on it because of what you said and because of what you represent. And that's all it was. But those are my thoughts on it anyway. Go ahead and keep this conversation going on below. I know people are going to have a lot to say about this one. I'm going to try to be as active in there as I can. And as usual, peace and chaos.